Hey guys, it's Kelly. Hey, I got a page done in my new mini art journal and I love how it turned out. Hope you guys do too. It was pretty simple. And I haven't used these for a long time, but I decided I want to do a page with my acrylic paints. So I got out some, I think Indian turquoise, which as you can tell is my favorite because it's almost gone, some sea breeze and some buttermilk. And I kind of like that combination for a nice, I don't know, subtle, I don't know, just a pretty bluish green background. Love it, love it, love it. Just cheap acrylic paints. You don't have to spend a whole bunch of money on this stuff. I think I paid got them on sale for like 78 cents a bottle or something. And I got a pretty big variety of those. And I don't remember. I might have got them from Michael's or Walmart, wherever. You can get them pretty cheap. And it's great to have in your stash because you can make a super quick background. Like I'm slapping it down, so not fancy at all. And then I just slap some more water on top of it. And then the more I lay down, and I like to go in one direction with the strokes because I like to see the brush strokes on it because I like that texture. But the more I laid it down, the more I was like, ooh, I want the whole background to be that color. But I want it to be splotchy with that color. You know, you can get with one color, you can get all kinds of different shades depending on how much you water it down or how much you lay down. So I wanted to have it with some texture in the background, but I wanted the whole background to have a base color of the turquoise. Indian turquoise. I really like that color. It's pretty. And I just use my baby wipes and clean it up, and I dry in between. So, and this is a newbie tip if you're not familiar with how to do this. I mean, my paper is like 90-pound paper. It's really cheap paper. It's working just fine. But the trick to this, again, if you're a newbie, is dry in between layers. Once you got one layer down that you like, and if you want to layer colors on top of each other and give that depth and dimension, I think that on this really small surface like this, it makes it look way bigger if you do it like that. That's just my opinion. Do you, however you want to do it. If you don't dry it, then your colors will mix and you're going to wind up with mud every time. So yeah, drying it is key. And if you have a heat tool like I do, it's pretty quick. So I like the fat brush strokes, and then I turned my brush the other way and did some really thin brush strokes in there. And then I liked that, but I love to just kind of make it look more organic with the baby wipe and just dab, dab, dab here and there so that you can lift some of the color and then you can see some of the Indian turquoise from underneath so that they kind of look like they were meant like organically just grown there together. And yeah, and then the buttermilk, I decided, and I haven't done this for a while, so I bought these natural sponges from Michael's years and years and years ago. And I really like, again, I was like, ooh, it's like an organic feel. I really like the organic feel of the natural sponges. You can use any sponge that you want, but I like the texture that you get with it. I sped up the video to 1.5 times the speed. So it might be hard to see, but the sponge that I use, it almost has teeth. It's my favorite one. And I just like to water down the paint just a little bit, and then I just grab it with the natural sponge. Again, it's not like you got to buy it. And then I just blotted it here and there. And then before it dried entirely, I brushed the brush through it to kind of smear it. Just again, I like that organic feel. You know, now it looks kind of like polka dotty. But when you get up close to it, hopefully you can see it in the still picture that the texture in the background really works out. And I just take my brush now that it's pretty much dry and I spread it out over it. Now I'm just using my water jug because I needed clean water to put my sponge in to get the paint out of there because I didn't want it to sit. So, and it's super quick. You just rinse it out real quick. All the paint comes out, dry it off, and you're good to go. And it's ready for the next time. I love having that natural sponge in my craft room. I forgot I had it. I haven't used it in so long. And I haven't used my acrylic paint either because I'm such an ink mama. But it was fun. So yeah, my brush is dry, so I'm just kind of grabbing each blot of paint and dragging it just a little bit. I just smeared it just a tiny, tiny bit, and I really liked how that worked. So, and then you got to take care of your brushes. Make sure you clean them as you go. If you let them sit, they're going to get ruined. And I've had my brushes for a long time because I'm kind of religious about that, making sure I get them good and cleaned out. And then again, drying in between each layer because I wasn't done. I wanted to do my text stamp which is my go-to on pretty much every art journal page I do. And if you, I'll just get paint on my stamp if I don't dry it all real good. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. And I knew most of it was going to get pretty much covered up, but still, I like the foundation from where we're starting. And there is my infamous stamp. I love that darn thing. It just works. And if it ain't broke, why fix it? So just slap it down here and there, just with my hand. And then I got one of these, the Canon Ivy mini printer. And I got that idea from Vicky Pepinu. I don't know if I said her name right, but I just love her. She's my muse, and she's always inspirational. I always go to her channel. And this is actually, this compilation here was kind of inspired by one of the pages that she had done probably a while ago. So yeah, I invested in one of those little Canon Ivies, and then you go on pixels.com, I think, and it's free stock photos. And I got some books, I got some other ideas I'm going to do. But I printed out that coffee thing. It just looked really soothing and comforting to me, and it just spoke art journal to me. And then there's just some things that I cut out of a paper pack from Stamperia. I don't remember which one that was, but I've recently invested in it. I think that was like a travel one. But I just cut a couple pieces out of it and cut them to kind of look like little tickets, and just the edges. They weren't perfect at all. I just cut them by hand. And then ink those suckers up and put them on my page. So, and again, I really, really like to do the inking of Vintage Photo first and then black soot on the outside. So that's kind of my jam on the majority of my pages. I'm going to have to deviate from that and just get a little bit more creative with more colors on the outside. But I've tried it before, and I just was not crazy about it. So there's, do I have to do this every time? No, I don't. But I just think it helps to really make the colors pop that you chose, and then just draw your eye in. I just think it works. But you could probably do other colors too, but then it just looks like they're all competing with each other instead of being a shadow. It looks like, okay, now I got blue and now another shade of blue. If it's the same shade as a background, it works. But if it's a different color, it doesn't. So we'll see. But yeah, cleaning up my mess. And then I kind of played with this for a little bit to get them on there. One of them feels like the larger one feels like it might have been a little bit too big, but I was just already invested and I wasn't going to change it. So it's just some books and some coffee, and it's just like a comforting view. And then since it's a glossy picture, just like basically any picture that you would have developed, using the distress ink on there doesn't work. So I just grabbed my archival ink and I used that to ink up the outside. You can use that for the other paper too and everything, but the archival is going to do better on that glossy paper. The distress ink is just going to rub off. And I definitely wanted to have some shading around the outside, around the edges of that picture. And the archival ink is the way to go for that, in case you all wanted to ink that. You can obviously mat it with black paper, but that just looked too perfect for the vibe that I had going here. It was very imperfect and organically happening, so I wasn't crazy about all the straight lines, but I just went with it. Instead of distressing everything, I just rolled with it. I liked it. So you can do archival, you can do black soot, whatever you want around the edges. Still works out. I really like the black soot color. I know it sounds weird, but black isn't really black. So, but black soot is black soot. It's just the black. I like it. So yeah, I got this stamp set. I think it's Pink Fresh Studio. Yeah, and it has all kinds of little sentiments in there. They're kind of pick me up, and I really like that stamp set. So I think it's Pink Fresh Studio. Yeah, I think so. And I was just kind of sizing it up, like what would go on this page, what would look nice, and what would go with the theme of like kind of relaxing and I don't know, just being cool. And then I'm like, well, Simple Steps works good. And there's books in there. I don't know, it just worked to put Simple Steps on there. So that's what I went with. And I fussed with this. So actually Small Steps is what it says. Sorry about that. Small Steps is what I did. And yeah, you can see I've got the sentiment down there, and that doesn't work. And I show you the difference between the second one that I chose. But I needed some really dark contrasting splatter marks on it. And I went really, really bold with the black uh, acrylic paint. And I watered it down just a little bit so it's really concentrated. It's a very small amount, but it's black paint, so if you don't water it down more, I probably would have had like smaller splatters, but I went for the bold look on this one and I don't regret it. I thought it was pretty good. I probably could have watered it down a little bit and had it a little bit more subtle, but it is what it is. But that's how if you're like, wow, that's too much, you just ruined it. No, I don't think I did. But if you don't like that, that splatter mark, then just add more water to black acrylic paint, and then you can do it that way. Or you can do the really subtle droplets with the black soot ink and you water that down, whatever your jam is. And then I did each piece kind of separately with the splatters. I don't know, it just wound up happening that way. I mean, I didn't have to do splatters on the page, but I did it. And then I laid them down and thought, no, I'm going to splatter them this way now. So, because I did want the larger splatters in the background and then the smaller splatters on the smaller pieces, if that makes sense. So, kind of like to scale, it just seemed like that would work better to me. But I'm sure it would have been fine if I would have just put it all down and splattered it that way. But there's always a way. And then there's always another way. So yeah, I just got to dry my paint, clean my brushes real quick. I always leave that in there because to somebody who's new, if you're not taking care of the brushes that you have and stuff like that, then you wind up ruining them and then you're losing money. I know it's not a lot of money for the cheaper brushes, but still, it's what we got. My budget's tight. I know there's other people out there who have a tight budget. So do with that information what you will. But there I am. So I got my layout, but the first sentiment that I did, I inked it too much and it just wound up disappearing in the background. So I needed white in my sentiment. So I just redid it, restamped it, and I fussy cut it out just around the letters. And then I popped it up and called it done. So I'll do that sometimes where I'm like, oh, that's too white. I don't want it to steal the show. The sentiment shouldn't be the whole show, right? I have a focal point and it's the coffee cup in there and the sentiment should complement it. But it was disappearing into the background when I colored it with Vintage Photo. It just disappeared entirely. So when I redid it and all I did was take the Vintage Photo on the outside and didn't color the paper entirely with it, that worked out better. That you could actually see it. So hopefully that makes sense how I showed you both. The first one was kind of a fail, but I decided, I didn't fail. I just learned what I didn't like. I learned what didn't work. And then I get my book. This is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I cut that paper, just 1/8 of an inch shorter all around the edges and cut off my excess, re-inked it since I cut it off. And I really like it. It is that comforting, makes you want to sit and read and have coffee and just cozy up and, and relax. So just gluing it in its permanent home in my book. I think this is the 1, 2, 3, third page in my book. Making progress. Doing it as I can between work and life. Things get busy sometimes, but you got to make time to make something pretty just for the sake of making something pretty. The best therapy, art journaling. I really think it's great, great, great for stress reduction and just to create something tangible. So I like it. Hope you guys like it too. So don't forget to like, comment, and share. And I'm going to have a lot more to come. I hope you guys enjoy it. Please leave me a comment and let me know what you think.